Today, our country observed Memorial Day, a tribute to those Americans who died in war. Memorial Day reminds us of the debt we owe to those who have fought battles to preserve our nation or otherwise serve our national interest. Today, we honor in particular those Westminster graduates who have died in the service of our country, and in doing so, we continue a long tradition in this chapel. Let us begin by singing together verses 1, 2, and 4 of the hymn found on page 780.
Good morning. Imagine with me for a moment. It's the early morning of September 17, 1862. You and I are part of a large force of Union soldiers, nearly 8,500 in fact, preparing to go to battle once the sun comes up. We're gathered near a creek named Antietam, just outside of a little town in Sharpsburg, Maryland. A light drizzle during the night turned into a steady rain, making it hard to sleep. Your nervousness about what lies ahead in a few hours also makes it difficult to rest. Many of your fellow soldiers never slept that night. They made their peace with their God or wrote letters home. At dawn, we organize into ranks, lines of soldiers ready to move forward. In between us and the Confederate Army lie around 30 acres of corn, ready to be harvested. Our lines move forward towards the fields. Our general, Major General Joseph Hooker, observes the action from a farmhouse overlooking those fields. He was able to notice sunlight reflecting off the bayonets of hundreds of Confederate soldiers standing among the corn. The battle begins as mortar shells and infantry fire rain down around us. Casualties begin to pile up even before we can see the soldiers of the other side. We aren't sure how many there are. As it turned out, there were nearly 8,000 men waiting. The battle continues, and so does the carnage. General Hooker observed, "In the time that I'm writing, every stalk of corn in the northern and greater part of the field was cut as closely as could have been done with a knife, and the slain lay in rows precisely as they had stood in their ranks a few moments before. It was never my fortune to witness a more bloody, dismal battlefield." During the course of the morning, the cornfield, an area 250 yards long and 400 yards wide, changed hands 15 times. The fighting was brutal, and at some points became a hand-to-hand encounter. It's hard to imagine that for several hours, there was nearly an average of 1 casualty per second. For those of our fellow soldiers in the 12th Massachusetts Brigade, they suffered a 67% casualty rate in their first half hour of fighting. The fight raged on in other parts of the battlefield throughout the day. Less than 12 hours after our experience in that cornfield, the total number of casualties, that is those dead, wounded, or missing, rose to over 22,700. Nearly 9,000 of those casualties came from just the area of the cornfield. A total of 3,654 lives were lost that day, making it one of the bloodiest days in all of American history. Some of you may know that I'm a Civil War enthusiast. This began many years ago when my parents would take my brothers and I on camping trips around the country during the summer. We loved going to amusement parks and campgrounds that had lakes and activities for kids, but my parents also used the opportunity to take us to many Civil War battlefields. This made quite an impression on my young mind. From then on, I've read a lot on the history of the war and became more involved as I got older. I've made an effort to return to many of the battlefields I saw as a child, and I'm still trying to visit others. I've been a member of the Civil War Trust for many years. The Trust is an organization that attempts to preserve battlefields of the Civil War and purchases the land where the battles were fought in order to prevent urban development. Several years ago, the Trust was involved in helping raise awareness for controversial development around the famous Battle of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. As recently as 2017, there was an attempt to build a casino just a few miles from the battlefield. I really believe in the importance of maintaining the land where these battles were fought, and where so many Americans lost their lives. In 2012, I was fortunate to be awarded a travel grant from Westminster School and was able to add to my list of battles by touring Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana over several weeks. And just last summer, I was able to go back to Antietam and walk through the very cornfield I just spoke to you about. You can see a few pictures on Community News if you'd like. This leads me here to this chapel talk on Memorial Day. Memorial Day began as decorations Decoration Day in 1868 as a way to honor Northern soldiers who died during the war. By 1890, Decoration Day was a holiday in most of the northern states. After World War I, the day became a way to honor all American war dead. In 1971, the day became a national holiday. On this solemn holiday, I think it is important for us to think just not only of the men and women who have already given their lives in service of this country, but also to think about the senselessness of war itself and to do our best to convince those in power to avoid violent conflict and search for ways to peace so that these kinds of sacrifices would not be necessary for anyone, anywhere, at any time. Thank you. Members of John Hay will now read the names of those Westminster alumni in the service who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Following the reading of the names, Mr. Aber, Sungmin, and I will perform a movement of the Beethoven Trio for piano, clarinet, and cello. And following the trio, I ask that you leave the chapel in silence. Thank you.
Charles James Freeborn, class of 1896. Philip Robertson Mills, class of 1899. Percival David Freeborn, class of 1900.
Burrell Richardson Huff, class of 1905.
Scoville Thomas Devon, class of 1907.
James Pearson Goodspeed, class of 1908.
Daniel Waters Cassar, class of 1912.
Robert Swift Gillette, class of 1912.
Louis Root Ewing, class of 1913.
Danforth J. Monson, class of 1913. Alexander Blair Fall, class of 1916.
John Foster Thacker, class of 1917.
Lieutenant John Stark Coleman, class of 1928.
Josiah Oliver Wolcott Jr., class of 1930.
Lieutenant Lawrence E. Tracy, class of 1931. William G. Yepson, class of 1931.
Captain Burrell Barnum, Distinguished Flying Cross, class of 1932.
Henry S. Washburn, class of 1932.
Frank G. Bristol, class of 1934.
Private First Class Donald A. Dunner, class of 1934. John W. Gillette III, class of 1936.
Captain John P. Nevins, class of 1936.
Lieutenant F. Shepard Short, class of 1980.
Lieutenant Lee A. Mayer, class of 1939.
Lieutenant John B. Pearson, class of 1939. Lieutenant G. Andre Wheeler, class of 1939.
Lieutenant Julian B. Clark, Jr., class of 1940.
Private Charles W. Goodale, class of 1940.
Ensign David M. Bachman, class of 1940.
Grosvenor Gilbert, class of 1941.
Peter R.C. Mars, class of 1941.